Boop, boop, boop. All right, all right, all right. What's up, what's up, what's up? Y'all know it's your favorite girl from the 504, bringing you another episode of Black Girl Interrupted Podcast. Today is Tuesday, December the 9th. I hope everyone is having a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. Thus far, I hope everyone has been doing well. Most of you know last week was Thanksgiving, so I didn't do anything. No, I did one episode. But I let everyone else have their time with their families. I got to celebrate my birthday. I got to have a beautiful time. Hey, sus. I miss you too, baby. Yes, everything is good. Um, we'll have to catch up on the back end. We'll definitely have to catch up. But hug and kiss my babies for me. Tell my brother-in-law, I say, hey, hey, hey. But tonight, well, let me say this. The whole month of December, we're going to be talking about grief. I know around this time of the year, things get heavy. Life gets heavy for people. Some people are celebrating their first year without their loved ones. Some people are celebrating their 20th year, their 10th year. So this month is dedicated to grief. But tonight's topic is, how do you deal with losing a parent? Whether it's a mother, a father, a stepmother, a stepfather. How do you deal with that? How do you recover from that? Many of y'all that are new to Black Girl Interrupted podcast, I always love, 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 love to do my mental health check-in. I just want to check the temperature. I just want to see how everyone is feeling tonight. How is everyone doing? I know for me, I could say I'm in the most stable state of mind that I've been in a long time. So, so my sister says, yes, sure will. Yes, honey. Hug my babies for me. I'm sending you lots of love, lots of prayers um, on the loss of your grandmother. So, uh, love to you, prayers, condolences to the family. Keep me updated. But anyone that is new to Black Girl Interrupt the podcast, I love to do my mental health check-ins. I do these mental health check-ins because I have to check the temperature of people. Mental health, suicide is at an all-time high in the Black community. So it is imperative that I continue to advocate not only for me but for the people that look just like me too when it comes to mental health. So you know what? Let me say this to y'all. I know life gets heavy. I know it does. I know sometimes you feel like you don't have an outlet. I know a lot of times you feel like death is the only way to go. But I want to reassure, I want to reaffirm, I want to love, I want to encourage, I want to empower somebody and let you know that you're wanted here. I want you, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. Please don't let anyone tell you that therapy is a joke, because it's not. Therapy has worked for me. Um, Trying to balance working two jobs now I can get back into therapy now that I know my schedule and I can balance everything out. But I want to speak life into someone. I want to love on someone. I want to encourage somebody. I want someone to know that your mental matters, that your feelings are valid, that it's okay to not be okay a lot of days. But I just want to let you know, don't stay there. Don't lay in it. Get up. You got to push through. I know right now it seems dark. It seems dim. I know people are trying to figure out, well, how do I make it through? You just got to get up. You got to get up. You got to get up. You got to push through. You got to know that you're wanted here. You got to know that you have purpose on this side. You have to know and you have to understand you are important. You are beautiful. You are loved. You're resilient. You're everything that God says you are. You understand? So don't let your mental or that let me back up. Don't let the devil tell you that you're less than. Don't let the world make you feel like you're less than. You understand? Because you matter. You have purpose on this side. You woke up today. You still have a roof over your head. You have clothes on your back. You have food on your table. You have a car to drive. No, it may not be the nicest car, the best car, but you're still able to get to where it is that you need to go. So I just want to say from here, from Ashley to everyone else out there that is listening, I love you. And I'm proud of you. And I'm rooting for you. I want you to win. We're going to win. We're not going to let anything stop us anymore. You understand? We have what? Eight, nine, four. My math is so off, y'all. But today is the ninth. We are rounding out the end of 2025. We are about to walk into 2026 with greatness. You understand? We're about to walk in our purpose. We are about to take back everything that was stolen from us, everything that was allowed that we allowed to be taken away from us. We're about to get it back tenfold in 2026. So that is the way I want to start off my podcast tonight. Oh, my brother says, he says, I'm on the clock, but I'm tapped in, sis. I can't hear, but I can read and support my family. I love you so much, Wordsmith. I don't think you understand the love that I have for you. And I'm so appreciative of you for standing with me and my husband as we walk through this storm. You understand? We're walking through it. We're going through it. You get what I'm saying? So I just want to say thank you. God bless you. I'm so proud of you. And I cannot wait to see what 2026 holds for you. I just wanted to start off like that. It was just on my heart. I don't know who needed to hear that because I know someone right now is grieving. I know someone, like I said, this is their first holiday without their loved one. I know someone that might be their fifth year. This might be their 30th year without their mom or their dad. But the grief never goes away. So for the whole month of December, we're talking about grief. But tonight's conversation again is about how do you deal with losing a parent? Hmm. How? How do you deal with that? I know I can say for me, I lost my father in 2021. Yeah, my glasses all fogging up. I promise I'm not gonna get emotional tonight. I'm gonna try. Okay, y'all know I'm so passionate about this. So tonight's topic is how do you deal with the loss of a parent? Again, this whole month of December, we're talking about grief. The holidays, it gets heavy for a lot of people. I know for me, it's a little rough. I know for others, it's a little rough. You know, again, this may be your first year. This may be your fifth year. This may be your 30th year, your 40th year. But I want you to understand the way you feel is valid. Your feelings are valid. It's okay to grieve because grief has no expiration date. I wish people would stop saying, oh, it gets better with time. Maybe for you it does, but for others it doesn't. You understand? I've learned. My dad has been gone almost 5 years, and I've learned how to just deal with him not being here. I've learned to deal with that. It gets easier for me to talk about. It doesn't sting as much as it used to when it first happened. I'm gonna be honest with you. The first 2 years, man, was rough. You know, I had my breakdown. I had a lot of health issues going on. I had back to back surgeries after I lost my father. So now it's year four. And I will say, I won't go to the cemetery because he's not there. But my therapist also told me, she says, as long as you're here, your dad is still here. So mm, I say this to the ones that are grieving. As long as you're still here, your parents are still here. They still live within you. They may not be here physically, but they still live and reside within you. So I found, y'all already know I always come with videos. Y'all know I always come with something so beautiful. So I follow a guy named Trent Shelton on TikTok. And I said, I love I love the things that he speaks about. But I came across this one video. I'm not going to play the entire video because the video was like 8, 9 minutes long. But I just want to play certain pieces of the video where he discusses what life was like for him after he lost his mother. And so as I was watching this, I looked at the date. He lost his mother 3 days after I lost my father. So I'm like, oh man, this guy is He knows exactly what I'm feeling and what others are feeling out here. Uh, oh, Angel says she loves Trenshaw. I love him. And so, Angel, when I came across this video, he was talking about what it was like when he lost his mother. And this resonated so much with me because, again, I lost my father in March 2021, March the 4th, 2021. And it rocked my world. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember wanting to do my show that same night that my father passed away. And my ex co-host said, "You can't do the show." And I said, "Yes, I can. I have to do the show. I got to keep going." But the moment I sat down and the camera came on and I was ready to hit record, I just broke because I couldn't understand, why is my dad not here anymore with me? People keep saying, "Oh, you're never supposed to question God." Why not? We have a relationship. So if it's something that I don't understand, I'm very well within my rights to sit down and ask God, why? Why didn't you let me talk to him before he passed away? Why didn't you let me do this? Why didn't you let me do that? And God said, because you would have fought harder for him to hold on than for him to let go. And I don't think people understood when I said that. I just, well, what do you mean? God said, because look at how you're dealing with it now. And so I said, well, but God, he said, but that's not the way I wanted it for you. Mm. So I had to stop and I had to think, would it have been easier on me if I would have talked to him before he passed? Or would it have been harder for me? But every day that I get up and I look in the mirror, I see my dad's face. I look just like him, exactly, glasses, everything. So as I continue to have this conversation with God, I said, I get it now. It would have hurt had I had spoken to him before he passed. I wanted to remember him full of life. I wanted to remember him in that beautiful smile. No, he was not perfect. Did he have his flaws? He made a lot of mistakes. He did. But that was still my dad at the end of the day. And I just wanted to remember the good pieces of him that I had. And that was the conversations we would talk every Sunday. He would call every Sunday, or I would call him. And we would talk, sporadically through the week, but Sundays was our day. I would call. He would just be getting in from church. He said, "Oh, I just got in from church. I'm sitting down watching a little football." And we would just talk for an hour, maybe 2 hours, just about everything. So when he passed, I held on to that. And I said, "But God, you could have let me talk to him." And God said, "No, no, this is the way I wanted it to be." Because again, you would have been fighting for him to hold on. And he said, "Your dad was tired." He said, "Your dad knew how you felt about him." Your dad said he knew that you loved him. And I did. I loved him. Angel says she can completely relate. And so he told me, God says, your dad knew you loved him. Regardless of whatever happened in the months prior to him passing away, your dad knew how you felt about him. I said, "But I wanted to tell him one last time." He said, "But you did." He said, "Your dad hears you, but you got to keep going, Ashley. You got to keep going." And so that very first year, because again, my father passed March. So I had my first birthday without him, my first Thanksgiving, my first Christmas. So I got over the first. And I can honestly tell you that first year was rough. That first year, that first 365 days was rough. When I tell y'all, I completely shut down from the world. I was still doing my podcast, but I had put up blackout shades in my apartment. I would go days and I wouldn't bathe. I would go days and I wouldn't eat. I would go days and I just I just didn't want to get out of the bed. So I said, God, I gotta get up. I gotta go. I gotta get up. I gotta do this. God says you're not ready yet. He says, stop trying to force the process. I say, but God, I'm ready. He said, no, you're not. So I tried. I ran. So Nicole says, that's why you and I vibe, sis. We have so much in common. I know exactly how you feel. She said, I lost my daddy January 30th of 2012. Yoshi says, hey, sister, I love you so much. He knew you loved him dearly. I did. But I questioned. I wanted to know, why didn't you give me that last conversation with him? God says, because that's not the way I set it up for you. God says, you don't get everything that you want. Your dad knew how you felt about it. That's why he left you in charge, because he knew you were the more responsible one. He knew he could depend on you. And I didn't think about that. You understand? So when my father passed, when I got the phone call, it was, I didn't recognize the number. It was an Alabama number. I'm like, who is this calling me? Like they called me, they had called 3 times. So finally I answered the phone and the voice at the end said, Ashley? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, hey, this is Miss Linda Graham. I said, hello, how are you? Like what? Like who is this? And she said, I live next door to your dad. She said, I just called to let you know your father passed. And I dropped the phone. But then it was silence when I picked it back up. And I could hear her calling my name at the other end. And she said, has the hospital called? I said, no, they haven't called me. And I say, I got to notify, family members. But the first person I called was my mother. I know that was selfish of me, but my mother came first. And then I reached out to my father's side of the family. I know, y'all, I know that sounds so hateful. But in that moment, I needed my mother. I didn't need them. I needed my mom. You understand? So I didn't feel bad about it because I needed my mom. My father had just passed. I knew he had COVID. I knew he went to the hospital the day before. He went in at 6 p.m., about around 6:30, and my father was gone at 9 something the following day. Not even 24 hours, my father was gone. So I didn't know how to feel about that. So I called my mom. And so while I was on the phone with her, the hospital calls. And I said, Mama, I don't know who this is. I said, this might be the hospital calling me. I don't know. She said, well, okay, well, I'll call you. I told her, I said, I'll call you back. So I click over, I answer the call, and it's the hospital. And she said, may we speak to Ashley Pitts? I said, this is her. Uh, she said, I was just calling to inform you that your father, William, has passed. I said, I was notified. The neighbor called. And she first said, I just want to extend my condolences to you and your family. And she went on to explain what happened. This is the first time that I've talked about this since that day. So she says, your father came into the emergency room the day before. Hey, sis. Oh, I love you, baby. Angel says, exactly. Misha says, I know the feeling. Nicole says, what do you mean that was selfish? Sis, you called the one person you could depend on, your mom. I did. Because in that moment, I needed her. I didn't need nobody else. I just needed my mom. So the hospital calls and I'm speaking with the doctor, and she says, your father came in yesterday afternoon. She said about 5, 6, somewhere around that time, and he had COVID, and we thought, maybe we would just give him a little oxygen and maybe he would have been able to go home. She said, but his oxygen level started to drop. So she said, so we had to take him upstairs. We had to go ahead and we had to admit him. She said, we put him on oxygen. She said, his levels were dropping, so they had to intubate him. Mm. And she said his heart rate started to drop. She said we did everything we could. She said he coded, but they were able to bring him back. But then he coded again. She said we fought and fought. She said your dad fought. She said, but his heart was so weak, so that when he coded, they just let him go. And in that moment, hey, Mr. Lonnie, it's good to see you. Nicole says, don't ever regret contacting your mom first, ever. Oh, I don't regret it now. Then in that moment, I did because I needed to, I was like, I got to call his brother. I had to call my uncle. I had to call, my father's sisters and his, I had to contact everybody. So she said, your dad fought. She said, he fought all the way to the end. She said, but his heart was just too weak. And in that moment when she was telling me this, all I could just imagine was, what was my father feeling? Was he fighting to stay? Did he want to stay? Did he want to go? Did God give him an option? These are things that are rolling through my mind. And at this point, when my father passed, like I said, this was at the height of COVID. So all I could think about was my father's in this hospital room. He's alone. He's by himself, no family, nothing. And so I said, okay. And she said, he left you. You were the point of contact. Just let us know when, what funeral home is coming to get his body. And when you hear that, it just seems like it's just so surreal. You're like, what? Your father passes, your mom, your one of your mother, your father, a parent passes away. So I said, okay. And so I started contacting everyone on my father's side. I called my uncle. Now, mind you, I had to contact a lot of them through Facebook because I don't talk to them. I don't have dealings with my father's side of the family, with the exception of a few people. Let me say that because I don't want people to get offended and say, but we just talked to you. Let me just say this. Of my father's immediate family, I have no relationship with them. Let me say that. And I don't regret it. Okay. Now my father's two sisters, my Aunt Louise that passed away, and his sister Linda, love them dearly. Love them dearly. And then my Uncle John. But the rest of them I didn't have any dealings with, and I have no regrets about it. So I contact them, let them know, and they said, well, let us know what you're gonna do. I said, well, I have to go to Alabama. Like, what do you mean what I'm gonna do? Like, I gotta go to Alabama. Like, I gotta go get my dad's body. Like, why in the hell would you ask me a question like that? Like, that's just so inconsiderate. But anyway, so I immediately, after I contact and I let everybody know, I go to my mom's house and my children are there. And the first person that runs and hugs me is my daughter, my oldest daughter. And she says, oh my gosh, she said, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. I said, thank you. And in that moment, I just broke. My son hugged me, my baby girl. And it was just, I got to find a plane ticket. I got to get to Alabama. I was about to drive. I was about to leave that day. My mom was like, do not get on that road. I said, but she said, Ashley, you are not in the right state of mind to get on that road and try to drive 11 hours to Montgomery, Alabama. So I said, okay. So I get online. I find a plane ticket. So I had to fly into Atlanta. And then from Atlanta, I drove to Montgomery, Alabama. But the whole process of making these arrangements were horrible. You understand? It was like I had to do this alone. None of my father's family came to Alabama with me. I had to do this alone. Shout out to my father's church for standing with me, for being the pillars for me, because I don't think I would have been able to do this. Even though, yes, my dad felt like I was the more responsible one. He trusted me. He knew I would take care of business after he passed. He knew that. But then there was conflict on the other end because they couldn't understand why it was me. Well, hell, do y'all want the responsibility, baby? Y'all come down here then. Come down here and do this. No one offered. No one volunteered. But then they were doing undermining shit on the, undermining stuff on the back end. Until the funeral home here in Houston said, hold on, wait, he has a daughter? Oh, we're not talking to you, we're talking to the daughter. Mind you, my name is on the death certificate, all of that. It was rah-rah about that. Why is your name on the death? Baby, is it that serious? I have to make arrangements for my father. And y'all want to worry about what's on a death certificate? Baby, do you want me to write it out and put your name on now? So I'm dealing with the foolery. Now, mind you, I couldn't grieve because guess what? I had to get to Alabama. Only had 3 days to get all of this done. I had to find a funeral home. Again, y'all, this was at the height of COVID. So funeral homes were packed. And I mean that in the most respectful way, y'all. Funeral homes were packed. One funeral home told me, we can't take another body. So I finally found one. And he said, we'll go get your dad tonight. We need you to whatever, do whatever it is you have to do. So I had to go in person because I was like, well, I can't do this over the phone. And the lady at the hospital told me, she said, no, ma'am. She said, because we don't know who we're talking to. I said, well, what if I fax you? She said, it could be anybody. She said, you have to come in person because I had to sign off for them to be able to take his body, for the funeral home to be able to come pick up his body. So I get there, I got to call Social Security. Like, I'm doing everything. I'm running on 3-4 hours of sleep because I can't rest, because I got to get up, I got to make these phone calls, but I got it done. I got it done. But let me first say this before I even continue on. Thank y'all. Everyone that's in this chat, thank y'all. Everyone that's tuning in, thank y'all for loving me and supporting me during that time. When I tell y'all, y'all were so darn amazing. I didn't know that people showed up for me the way that they did. Like, hundreds of people calling, sending messages, asking what you need. I'm here. You need me to meet you somewhere? I mean, and I appreciate that, man. Like, I just love y'all. Like, y'all are why I do this. Y'all are why I get up here and I do this show day in and day out. Y'all are why I do this. Y'all have, man. Whew, I got chills right now because I just thank God that God blessed me with an amazing group of people that came and they enveloped me with love and they stood with me all the way from the beginning to the end. Even now, I still get messages. Ash, I'm just checking on you, girl. I know it's been a little while, but hey, girl, I'm just checking on you. I love you. Whatever. Man. So I finally, continue on. So I get back. So we got a few comments. Hold on. Wait. So Misha says, love you more, sis. You got this. He watching over you and I miss you so much. You know I'm here for you. Just a phone call away. Man, you know what, sis? With everything you have going, I just don't be wanting to bombard you with what I got going on over here. But now that you done beat me over the head 50 million times, I'm calling. I promise. So Angel says yes. She says, my mother, when she passed, they brought me back to see her. And although I could see she was lifeless, it was so surreal. Let me tell you, Angel, I didn't get to see my dad at the hospital. They told me I had to wait till he got to the funeral home. So the day that I was getting ready to leave, I had to take his clothes because we had him buried here in Houston. And I said, can I get a picture of him? And the guy at the funeral home said, yeah. I say, well, here, because I couldn't go back in there because there was another body in there also. So he took a couple of pictures for me. And I say, man, he looks so peaceful. He looks like he's asleep. And so as I turned to leave, I looked at him and I said, I'll see you when you get home. did. God, that was rough that day. That was rough. But I made it through. God carried me through. So, uh, just to see him there, I was waiting on him to get up. I was waiting. I didn't want to leave him, but I knew he was coming home. And I told him, I said, "I see you when you get home. I see you in a few days." But I picked out this nice, beautiful suit. I dressed my dad from head to toe because anybody that knew my dad was, man, he was dressed from head to toe and he smelled so good. So I had to go out for him. I had to dress him appropriately. So I picked out this nice, like brownish suit with his, I went and bought him new underclothes. Got it. I say, don't forget, you got to put that T-shirt on him. I say, baby, one thing for sure, my daddy don't wear his church without his undershirt. So I took him his clothes, and I think I must have hugged that suit so tight, and I sprayed it with his cologne, even though I knew he wasn't gonna smell like that by the time they shipped his body. Well, I'm so sorry, transported his body from Montgomery to Houston. But it was just a reminder for me. And when I walked out of the door of his house, I knew that was it. I knew that was it. So I get back to Houston, and then it was just chaos. Almost had a stroke dealing with my father's family and his arrangements because they wanted to call the shots. Absolutely not. We had his funeral at a funeral home. At the funeral home that had his body, that's where it was. Because that was at the height of COVID. Why would you want to pack all these people in a church? Half of them are elders with a lot of health issues. And y'all want to have this church because they say, oh, well, your father was a pastor. I say, I don't care if he was the pastor of the planet Mars. We doing everything right here in a funeral home. We're not going to pack everybody up in no church because that's what y'all want to do. I'm the daughter. And what I say goes. Period. Okay? Don't ever get it twisted because I'm Alvin and they're still the Chipmunks. Okay? I said that. And I stands on that. So anyway, again, they're making all these arrangements until the funeral home realizes, they're like, wait, well, his daughter. So they said, we don't want to talk to y'all. No, we're going to talk to the daughter. So the funeral home called. And they said, yeah, we didn't even know that he had a daughter here. I said, well, he's got several children here. I say, but I'm the point of contact. Well, they called because they want to move it to the church. No, we're not moving it to the church. Leave it where it's at. I said it. So then my father's other child calls me. I told her, so let me stop you before you even start. I said what I said. We're not moving his body. It's going to be right here. Mind you, my father passed on March the 4th. We didn't bury him until the 27th. My father had been dead almost a month. And you mean to tell me y'all want to move him to a church which would have pushed the arrangements back another week? I told him absolutely not. My father's going in the ground. I didn't care if I had to put wheels on the bottom of the casket and roll him into heaven. But he was not staying out any longer. So anyway, she was like, well, I said, I know why they wanted you to call. And I'm going to tell you the same way I told them, we're not moving it. It's going to stay right where it is. And guess what? We had the funeral home at Paradise North Cemetery, at Paradise North Funeral Home, and he's buried at Paradise North Cemetery. We weren't moving it nowhere. Because if I really wanted to be low down, I could have buried him in the VA cemetery and told him after the fact. If I really wanted to be low down, but God said, Ashley, don't do that. Don't do that. Ashley, don't do that. Be better. Be bigger. So I was. And after he passed, I didn't speak to them no more after that. I even told my father before he passed, when you leave, I don't want anything to do with your side of the family. And I meant that. I meant that. Nicole says, oh, sis. She said, we got to be related. She said, I do not get along with my dad's side of the family. I have not spoken to them since the day of my dad's funeral. My dad knew how I felt about them, so I knew he would not have an issue with that. Baby, let me tell you, my dad knew. I didn't like your people. It's only a handful of them that I deal with. A handful. Other than that, I don't fool with none of them. For what? Y'all never treated me like family anyway. And I look just like every last one of y'all. But I'm the cutest one. Hey, don't forget. No, let me stop. Let me stop. No, seriously though. So Angel says that's the hardest part. She said doing it alone. She said I was adopted and was the only child. I had no idea what all I had to do. Man, when I tell you, Angel, it was like walking around in the daytime with a flashlight trying to figure out who do I call first. He was getting Social Security. I got to call the VA. And I'm just, but his church family, they came and they stood in the gap with me and they say, we got this. They paid. Let me tell you how good God is. My father's church family came together. It was $1,700 to fly my father's body from Montgomery, Alabama. Well, they had to drive him to Atlanta. So from Atlanta to Houston, it was $1,700. I paid zero. The money that the church raised, they said, oh, no, baby, this is for you. One of my father's co-workers reached out to me, ex-co-workers when my father retired from the airlines. She said, your dad qualifies for a last ride. Huh? She said, do you have his ID number or whatever? I said, yeah, I have it. She said, call United. Let me tell you, United says, we're going to give him his last ride. I say, look at God. I say, look at you, Dad. You're still here with me. You're still moving through me. You're still working through me. And I appreciate that because his church family made sure I was good. And that's sad when your own family don't make sure you good. The church family is who stood for me, who stood with me. You understand? Who carried me them 3 days to make sure I got everything done. I'm talking about they were working day and night for me. Hungry, they bringing me food. Actually, you don't have to cook. We went and got you some chicken. We went and got this. They went and took me for breakfast. I went to IHOP, y'all, and went to eat. And I was on the phone with the funeral home. And one of the waitresses, she overheard. She said, your father passed? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, your meal is on me. What? Thank you. So can't nobody tell me that God is not real. Because what I thought I had to do alone, God sent his people to come help me. My father sent his family to come help me, his church family to come help me. Because he knew I was going to need some help. He knew I was going to need some type of assistance. But he did it. He did it for me. And I thank God for that every day. So when I talk about it, it doesn't sting as much. Yes, this is my 4th year without my father, but you know what? It gets easier for me. It gets easier for me to talk about what happened the day that he passed, what happened that morning, the phone call, what I had to do afterwards. It gets easier for me. Does it still sting? Yeah, it does. But I'm dealing with it. I'm feeling it. You understand? And that's what I want to really get into is the grief part is how do you deal with it? Nicole says, you were put in that position for a reason. I was. Mr. Lana says, been praying for you. Both of my parents are gone. He said, I've been there. And that's what I mean. I have friends that don't have no parents. None. Who may have lost their mom at a young age, who may have lost their father at a young age. I know someone that lost their mom and dad in the same year, just months apart. So I salute mm, for the strength that y'all have to make it through. I still have my mom, and I cherish the moments that I have with her because I know tomorrow is not promised. So I try to be the best that I can be. You understand? I try to do the best that I can do, but I don't overextend myself. So, to the ones that are still grieving, I love you and I empathize with you because I know that feeling. I know what it's like when you sit front row, when you gotta close that lid for the last time. But we made it. We're still here, standing. God didn't put this on our shoulders to hurt us. God says you lean on Him for your own understanding. All things through Christ strengthens him. You know this. Miss Angel says, yes. Nicole says, God is good. Angel says, all the time. I don't think y'all understand how I ran to God because I told God, I can't do this. God says, yes, you can. I say, but how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to function without him? He said, aren't you doing it now? I say, God, you can't. He said, yes, I can. God says, I got you. You are not by yourself. You got me. You got Jesus. You got the disciples, baby. You got a cocoon of people that love you. You got this. So March 27th, 2021, when I was able to finally lay my father to rest, I walked out in peace and not pieces. I did. And I thanked God for the time that I got with him because there are some people out here that didn't get as much time with their mom or their dad. You got some that never met their mom. You got some that never met their father. Maybe the father passed away when they were 1 or 2 years old, or maybe at birth, or maybe the mother passed at birth and the father's raising them. But by God, we are still here. God has us. So on those days that get heavy for me, I just pull out one of those pictures and I look and I was like, man, I remember this day. And I remember the good times because my father wasn't cold. He wasn't hard because that's how they are laying in that casket. That's just a shell, baby. That's just temporary. But their souls and their spirits go on. They live through us. Nicole said, God is good. Angel says, all the time. Misha says, I love you, sister. I love you back, baby. I remember you telling me how you, and when you lost your father. I remember this. Mr. Lana says, I preached my mother's eulogy at the funeral. Oh, my God. I don't know how. Just me, let me say this, Mr. Lana. Just me speaking the acknowledgments was hard for me. So I could just imagine you having to eulogize your mother and the strength that God gave you to do. Oh my God. Nicole says, I closed the lid of my father's casket. My brothers couldn't do it. I don't know how I did it. And then at the end, they bring you the bag, with all the stuff, with the remaining funeral programs and the book that everyone signs and the stuff that they give you from the funeral home. But what hurt me was when I got home. I went in, I did the repast thing, y'all. I did. And I got home and I pulled out the bag, the book that people signed, the guest book. And I looked at a few of the programs that I still had left because I still had to send some back to the church. And then I pulled out this box. And I said, what is it? I didn't know what it was. And when I opened it up, it was the casket key. That's when it got real for me. That my father was really gone. When I opened that box and I saw it was a casket key, I was like, oh my gosh. Why did y'all get this to me? But I understand, But as the days went on, I went on with life. I went on with life until the reality really set in. And I was alone. The phone calls had stopped. The messages stopped. You know how it goes. Everyone's with you the first 6 months after you lose a loved one. Then after that, you're left to deal with it on your own. And I didn't know what to do. I got back into doing my podcast. I had met a new guy who's now my husband. And I just said, why? Why do you keep me here? I wanted to die when my father passed. When the reality set in, I wanted to die. I wanted to go. I wanted to be with him. God says, I kept you here. You have purpose. Do what you do best. And I said, but God, I don't know what it is. He said, yes, you do. You do what you do best. You love on people. You pour into people. So I got back into doing my podcast. Beautiful moment for me. Again, until reality set in. And I didn't know what to do after that. How do you go on? How do you just pick up when you lose a parent? One thing I can say is you have to acknowledge and process your grief. You got to validate those feelings. You got to experience it. You got to talk about it. So when I got into therapy, she told me, she said, you have to stop letting March 4th be a reminder. I say, but that, she say, but other things have happened on March 4th. And I told her, I said, but if I don't acknowledge it, then I'm forgetting my dad. She said, no, you're not. She said March 4th, 2021 was his death day. Not 2022, not 2023, not March 4th, 2024, not March 4th, 2025. She said so many things have happened on that day. But you want to hold on to that one piece of that day. I say, but that's the only way. She said, are you sure that's the only way you can remember your dad? I say, yes. She said, no, it's not. She said, how does your dad look? So I showed her a picture. She said, there he is right there. And I'm looking. I said, what do you mean? She said, you. You. Your father is still with you. He's not gone, she said, physically. But mentally and spiritually, he's still with you. You're still here. I wake up every day and I see my dad's face. I see that beautiful smile. I can hear him cheering me on, telling me how proud he is of me. I could hear that. So I had to validate my feelings. My feelings were valid. I was angry because how dare you why did you only give me 30 plus years of my dad or 40 plus years of my dad? Why? When you get people whose parents are still alive that get to, he say, but actually that's a selfish way of thinking. I'm so sorry, my therapist told me. She said, that's a selfish way to think. She said, you have some people that get no time. I didn't even think about it like that. And then I had to experience it. I had to feel the grief. I had to acknowledge that I was grieving. I had to acknowledge that I was angry, that I was sad, that I was confused. I didn't understand. And that's when I began to process my grief. That I had every right to be angry. I had every right to be sad. I had every right to be confused about why. I had every reason to ask God why. And God said, because it was his time, his assignment was done. But you keep writing in your book. So I had to ask, how do I start my next chapter? God says, first you pick up the pen and you write. So that's what I did. I wrote down how I felt. I wrote down how angry I was. I wrote down how mad I was at him for leaving me because we still had more time. At least I thought. So I had every right to feel that. And having to talk about it was rough in the beginning. Having to relive that day. And I mean, from the phone call all the way till I laid him down to rest. It was rough. It was rough. It was very rough. So Angel says, my adopted dad passed when I was 3. So it was just me and my brother and my mother for 32 years. She passed 19 years ago. She said up until 7 years ago, it was just my children and my husband. But God is good. And I know, she said, my biological family found me, and I have a dad and a sister that I love. And I remember, Angel, when you went to go meet your dad. Oh my God, I'm over here crying for you. So Sheena says, welcome back, big sister. Thank you. I'm here, baby. So, again, going back, how do we deal with the grief? How do you acknowledge it? You got to process it. But again, you have to know your feelings are valid. You have every right, again, and I'm going to repeat this again. You have every right to be angry, to be upset, to be confused. That's grief. But how do you handle that? You have to understand that you have to prioritize your self-care, your physical needs. You got to rest. See, when my father passed, I didn't get a chance to. I had to plan a funeral. I had to do this, I had to do that. So I couldn't grieve. I forgot about me. And then once I got home, it was like phone calls wouldn't stop. His family calling me. Well, Ashley, what do you want to do? We got to do this. We got to do that. At that point, I told him, you call me when everything is done. Because that's just how ragged they were running me. The fact that I couldn't even grieve my father. I couldn't even just sit for a moment and breathe without them calling me. Well, how do you want the programs to look? How do you want this? How do you know what? Do whatever y'all want. At that point, that's where I was. Do whatever y'all want. But I didn't get a chance to prioritize my self-care, my physical needs. I didn't get to rest. I had to go back to work. I'm running on 3-4 hours of sleep still. And then when the funeral came, I don't even think I rested then. Another way, you got to honor their memory. And you definitely got to seek support. Share the beautiful memories that you had with your mom and your dad. Share that. I tried, let me say this. So I tried the grief groups, the support groups. That wasn't for me. That just was not for me. And then you got to ask for help. I got into therapy, but then I stopped going because I was like, I got this. I'm good now. Until my world came crashing down again. That breakdown, his birthday. I was like, why is he not here? He should be celebrating his birthday. I even sent a text to his phone. I knew it was off, but I thought maybe he would still read it. I was low key hoping to get a response, even if it wasn't from him. Because again, I was so used to our Sunday conversations. So you got to honor their memory. You got to remember the beautiful parts about them. A lot of our love, our mothers and fathers didn't have a lot of beautiful parts. Some of them cause more pain than love. But what little bit of love you have, hold on to that. Let all the other stuff go. Let the bad parts of them go. And hold on to the good. Like I say, my father was not perfect. My father was not the best man. And I can say that. My father did a lot of things to people while he was here. I don't approve, and I've called him out on it. But there were some good times that I had with my dad. It wasn't a lot, but I cherish the few good memories I have. Taking him out to eat. I remember going to see him, and we went and ate Chinese food. You know, we talked a little football. He liked Alabama. He was a Roll Tide fan. Mm. But it was just the conversations I got to have with him as I got older. Being able to ask questions about things that I had heard. Questions about why wasn't he there for us, or for me. I got that. And I didn't do that for him. I did that for me because I was reclaiming my power. You understand? I was in the season of forgiving. And in order for me to heal, I had to forgive. I had to forgive my father for the things that he did. I had to forgive my father for his shortcomings. I had to forgive him for the things he did to my mother. I had to forgive him for the things he did to my sister. I had to forgive. Not for him, but for me. But I think the guilt, you know what? Let me correct that. The guilt of not being able to talk to him because our last conversation was an argument. It was. And I had the opportunity to call. I chose not to. I'm stubborn. I'm hard headed. Me and him were just alike. Two Sagittariuses bumping heads. But then when I sat down and, like I said, I had that conversation with God, God explained it to me because I was confused. I didn't understand. But God gave me clarity. He said, I wanted that to be the last conversation. I said, but God, he said, again, Ashley, had you have had that last conversation, you probably would, he said, baby, you probably would have been a whole mess around here. You probably would have been, I said, I know, I get it. So I'm okay. My father's birthday is Friday. Hmm. But my anniversary is Saturday. 1 year. I've been married to my husband. My father's birthday is Friday. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to celebrate. Although, again, he's not here physically, My Father still lives within me. My Father is still here with me. Just like your mom, your dad. As long as you're here, your family is still here. Your mother and father is still here. They still live through you. They're still here. Angel says, every right. She say, one day at a time. Tashina says, it's been 1 year since my mom passed. Oh my God. Tashina, you know, oh my God. She says, I'm getting better, but I still grieve her and the time I missed out on. She's saying, I deal with death and grief every day as a dispatcher, and it's so triggering at times, especially the calls that a person passed away the same way my mom did. And then she says, roll tide. Girl. But Tashina, I remember being on the phone with you. The day before your mom. Oh my God. Let me breathe through this. I remember talking to you. I think we was on the phone, what, 3, 4 hours? 4, 5, I don't know. I know we was on the phone for a long time. And you were making a cake, a Harry Potter cake. And we talked about you making my cinnamon rolls. Yeah. Okay. I ain't forgot. No, teasing. But and then I was going to get a battery for my car, and you called. And I missed your call. And when I called you back, I was like, what? Then I get on Facebook and I see your post. And I'm just like, what? Like, we were just on the phone. Literally. You understand? Like, we were just on the phone. How could you call me? You know, and it was just, and it brought me back to the day that I lost my dad. And I said, I got to show up for my friend, man. I got to be there for my sister, you know. And I think that day we were on the phone waiting. Like, I remember I was on the phone with you for like, what, 2 hours the day she passed while we were waiting for them to come pick her body up. Like, just everything. And I'm talking to your husband. Just, just know I will forever love you. And I will forever be in your corner. Mm, oh, I just remember that day. I just remember that day. Tashina said 4 hours talking about her birthday and planning for my website for my business. That's what I said. And then the next day, that Saturday, we were on the phone for like 2 hours. Family there, your husband talking to me, I'm talking to you, you not even paying attention to nobody, you talking to me. Like, you had family over there, and you were just like, nope. You was like, man, I'm talking to my sister. And I felt so helpless in that moment because I couldn't even just hug you. Man, and that's why I tell people, man, you got to show up. You got to show up. Other ways to deal with grief, you got to remember healing takes time. There's no timeline on healing. And then you got to recognize triggers. I know for me, Brown, if I smell a certain type of cologne that my father used to wear, I think about him. I'm in the store and I may see someone walking like my dad, and I'm like, man, he walks like my dad. I saw one guy in the store. I said, man, he looks like my dad. It was like when he first passed, it was like I was seeing all these people that looked like my dad because I wanted him to be here so bad. I wanted him to be here. But then I also had to remember we're only here temporary. We're not here permanently. We're only here temporary. And we have to remember that. So I love as much as I can. I try to be the best person I can be because when my time comes, I have to stand before God and I have to answer for the things that I've done on this side. I want to see my grandmother. I want to see my dad again. I want to see my two babies that I lost. Someone asked me, they said, if you could go to heaven for a weekend, who's the first person you would look for? I say, probably my dad. But I would definitely go and look for my grandmother too. Man, but I would. Because I would love to sit and just have a conversation with my dad and ask him, did I make you proud? Did you see what I've been doing? Are you proud of me? Are you happy that I'm back in my space? Are you happy that I finally found the man that loves me? Are you happy that I've made amends with my mother? Are you happy that I've become a better parent to my children? I think I would give him the biggest hug and then I would be like, so what you cooking today? Can I get my sweet potato pie? I would. But again, you have to give yourself grace. You have to know that healing is not overnight. I know when a person passes, we want to get back to normal, but you have to understand the new normal, the one without their physical being, the one where you have to flip the page and you got to pick the pen up and you got to keep writing. Because just because their life ended, yours keeps going. You understand? You, you have to finish. You have to finish. So, another question. Does losing a parent change you? It often leads to a profound sense of grief, a shift in family roles, and can cause you to reevaluate your priorities and mortality. Man, losing my father, I had to revisit my relationship with my mother because I didn't want the guilt of not calling my dad because I carried that. I've let that go. Like I say, once I got into therapy and I got to talking to her, and when she explained to me, and when I started back rereading my Bible, I had to understand God does things on His time, never ours. So I had to understand that. I had to say, okay, all right, God, appreciate you looking out for me. Thank you for being here for me. Thank you for holding me on the days that were dark. Thank you for carrying me on the days that I didn't even think I could carry myself. So learning to deal with grief starts with you. It starts with extending the grace to yourself, knowing that it's okay to not be okay, knowing that what you feel is okay. It's valid. It's okay for you to be sad. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to feel those range of emotions as you channel through grief because, again, now we're navigating a brand new chapter in life without our mom or dad. We're not going to wake up and things are just going to be back to normal just like that. No. I had to pick up the pen and I had to flip the page and I had to continue on with the next chapter because that chapter with me and my father ended. In the physical, let me say that in the physical, it ended. but not in the spiritual. And I remember I used to beg for my dad to come to me. I just want to see you. I just need to see your face. And he would never come to me. Here it is almost 5 years later, and I've only seen my dad once. And that was in passing. And I begged, wait, come back, come back. And he just smiled. That was it. Maybe he's not ready to come to me. Maybe he feels I'm not ready for him to come to me. But I want him to know that I'm ready. I just want to see him. I just want to hug him. I just want to have a conversation with him. For 5 minutes. But I understand if he doesn't. But again, I won't go to the cemetery because I don't believe that's him out there. That's that rented body he had. That was just the shell of him out there in that casket. That's just him. That's just the shell. He's not in there. So I ask you, when you lost your parent, what changed for you? Drop in the comments. Let me know what changed for you. And how are you dealing with your grief of losing a parent? Whether it be your mom, your dad, or both. Tashina say, I broke that day. I know you did. But I just thank God that God allowed me to be with you in that moment or in those moments. Let me say that. I appreciate God for that. And I don't want you to ever feel, because I know you felt like you were burdened. No, you weren't. Because guess what? I'm on that same road journey to healing with you. So you were not a burden to me. I just grabbed your hand and carried you on with me. Because I didn't feel so alone. I had someone that I could walk with now and we could talk about it, that we could grieve together. That's the way I thought about it. And I still look at that to this day. That we are all on a journey to healing. We have all experienced some type of grief. And we're all on the path to healing. Some of us have healed faster than others. Some of us, we're still trying to get there. But I want people to know this is not a sprint. It's not who can get to the finish line first? No. Because grief, the way grief is in people, it's different. It's different. Everyone grieves differently. Not one person grieves the same. Me, I cried. I couldn't eat. I didn't bathe. Couldn't get out of the bed. I put blackout shades all through my apartment because I felt safe, because I didn't want to deal with the world. Because guess what? If I had to deal with the world, that means I had to deal with the reality of my dad being gone. So yes, anybody that is on this road of grief, I'm with you. Grab my hand and let's walk it together. You understand? Let's do it together. Let's heal together. Let's love together. Let's cry together if we have to. You understand? Let's be angry together if that's what we got to do to get over that hill. I'm not even mad about it. You understand? I'm not angry now that my father is gone. Because I know when it's my time, I'm gonna be able to see him. Again, those chapters with my father had to end. They ended in 2021. And I had to pick up the pen and I had to flip the page and I had to write the next chapter. But what do you do when the page is blank? What do you do when the ink doesn't come out of the pen? What do you do? How do you deal with that? One day I had to, because then I had to talk about it. So I had to express what I was feeling when I lost my dad. I had to write it down. And again, y'all, I had isolated myself from the world because I didn't want to deal with the world. I didn't want to deal with the reality of knowing that my father was gone. My father was no longer here in body. He was dead. How? I questioned. I said, God, you got all these evil people roaming the world. Why is my dad gone? I just couldn't understand. But then again, I had to sit down and I had to self-reflect that death is inevitable. We all have to go. We're all gonna go. Some assignments last longer than others. Some don't even get past the first. Some people don't even get past the prologue. Some people don't even make it past chapter 6. Some people make it to chapter 99. Some people don't even make it to chapter 50. We don't know. But I had to figure out, how do I get back up? How do I turn this page? How do I start this next chapter in my life? Miss Angel says, thank you for sharing your story. She said, I'm headed to bed, but I hope to catch another podcast of yours. God bless you. Angel, God bless you. I love you. And every Tuesday, every Wednesday. So for those that are just tuning in, I'm so sorry. Y'all welcome to Black Girl Interrupted podcast. So for the month of December, we're talking about grief, everything grief. How do you deal with losing a parent? How do you deal with losing a spouse? How do you deal with losing a child? How do you deal with losing a grandparent? How do you deal with losing a sibling? And then we're going to circumvent and come back and we're going to discuss what grief really is and how do we really truly handle it. So Tashina says, yes, it does. She says, I love my mother-in-law even harder since I lost my mom. She's been helping me cope. And there's my cousin. She says, I love you, cousin. I love you too. When I tell you, that was the woman, one of the women that helped me when my father passed. She was the first person I went to go see after everything was done. I did. I went to go see her. And when I tell you that woman, she hugged on me and she loved on me. And then I came back in October when my cousin got married. And I said, she said, your dad was supposed to officiate Brianna's wedding. I said, well, I guess I'm here to stand in for him. She said, I guess you are. But I did it. I made it. I got over that hump. And when I tell you, here I am, it's almost 5 years my father's been gone. And every day gets easier for me. It doesn't hurt as much when I look at the pictures. It doesn't hurt as much as when I talk about the day that he passed. But I still won't go to the cemetery. I'm sorry. No go for that. Because again, he's not there. My father's with me. I don't need a cemetery because I look in the mirror and I see his face. So I don't need that. I got to do another episode, y'all. I got a little emotional. I didn't get too tough. So as I go ahead and I bring everything to a close, grief has no expiration date. When it comes to losing a parent, understand your life will change. You have to understand that there's no timeline on grief. There's no expiration date on it. But in order for you to heal and deal, you got to validate those feelings. You got to experience it. You got to talk about it. You can't hold it in because holding it in is going to make you sick. Being able to share being able to share and express how I felt on March the 4th, 2021 till now has made a world of difference in my healing journey. Knowing that I'm not alone, knowing that I don't have to carry this weight by myself, that it's okay for me to have those not so good days. It's okay for me to reflect and say, oh man, I wonder what my dad would say if he was here. I wonder I wish I could pick the phone and call. But he's still with me. Anyone that's lost a mom or a dad or has lost both, they're still with you. As long as you are still here, they live within you. They're still here. Maybe not in body, but in spirit. I hear my dad sometimes. I hear him laughing. Sometimes I hear him in the house. And I have to tell him, Daddy, stop, leave that alone. My cousin says, yes, he's with you always. He is. And although I don't have the physical, I have the memories though. I have the good times that me and my dad had together. We had some bad, but we had some good too. And that's what I will always hold near dear to my heart, is that I'm William Joseph Pitts Jr.'s daughter. And although some may have ill blood, I'm still proud to call him my dad. Because he gave birth to greatness, honey. He did. And he did. But I say this to everyone. Take care of yourself. Get the rest you need. Hold on to those memories. If it gets too heavy, seek help. Ask for support. Don't deal with this by yourself. I know people say, oh, I got it. I thought I did too, until I broke down. And the reality of it set in. But I finally flipped the page. And now the ink writes from my pen. I got through another episode. So let me say this. Tomorrow night, we'll be back. And I'll be on time tomorrow. I had to run in. I had to do a couple of errands. And I just knew I was going to be back on time. But unfortunately, traffic would not let me. But tomorrow night, we are going to be talking about what it's like. How do you deal with losing a spouse? So again, for everyone new, tuning in to Black Girl Interrupted podcast, I am live every Tuesday, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live to Facebook as well as YouTube. I'm on all streaming platforms. I'm always looking for guests. I'm always looking to collaborate. So if anyone wants to collaborate, y'all send me a message. Send me a DM. Here is my email address. It is blackgirlinterruptedpodcast@gmail.com. Anyone that's interested in collaborating, anyone that has some ideas, if there's show ideas, if there's a topic that you want me to discuss that you may not have heard anywhere else and you want me to discuss it, send it to me. Let's get it. Let's get it for 2026. Like, we are going to end this beautiful year with a bang. I promise, my promise. My cousin says, yes, you are his daughter. She says, you make me so proud of you, cousin. And you know what? That means so much to me. I don't think you understand that when my father first passed, you were the only person I wanted to see after that. So don't tell anyone I said that, but I did. Because I remember how good you were to me when I was in California. And I'll always be grateful for that. I just appreciate you just standing in the gap for me. I just appreciate you just loving on me. I appreciate you just making yourself available for me, even now. And it's been almost 5 years. But I love you. I don't even think you understand that You are just absolutely amazing. You were so great to me. And I like I said, I'll forever be grateful for that. Because the things that you did for me, you didn't even have to do. You didn't even have to do, but you did. Um, so I'm giving you your flowers while you can still see them. So yes. So anyone, any show ideas, that's the email address. Black Girl Interrupted Podcast. I need to post a link for my new for the website. I have to go in. I still have to make some changes to it, but it looks absolutely amazing. But I will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. Don't forget to tell a friend, bring a friend. Tell them how we do it over here at Black Girl Interrupt the Podcast. Tell them we talk about all things black. We talk about all things black, mental health. We talk about adoption, sexual assault. We talk about everything. But again, for the month of December is grief. That's what we're talking about. But again, I just want to say I love y'all. I hope everyone has a beautiful, beautiful night. We got a couple of more comments. Let me see. My cousin, you're welcome. You are so welcome. I can't wait to see you in person in a few months. So, um, once my husband is done with his radiation treatments, I'll talk about that tomorrow too. Um, we're coming to Cali, so it'll be sometime in March. So, because I'm working two jobs and I can't take any time off from my second job until March. So hold tight. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to love on you, girl. It's going down. Hey. And please have some food for me. Thanks. I want some barbecue. Thanks. I appreciate it. But on that note, I just want to say I love you. 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 I will see you guys tomorrow night. Don't forget, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I stream live on all streaming platforms. So if you put in Black Girl Interrupted Podcast, I'm going to come up. Your girl is trying to make some big moves for 2026. So I love y'all. I hope you rest well. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. And most importantly, I hope you have a beautiful day tomorrow. And whatever happened today, leave it on today. Don't worry about what happened today. Focus on tomorrow. All right. Love you. Holler. Da da da.